Self-discipline can feel intimidating, as though it demands iron willpower and constant self-denial. But the ancient Stoics argued it is simpler than we think. They believed self-discipline arises not from punishing yourself, but from clear recognition of what truly matters and letting everything else fall away. This approach to discipline is straightforward because it rests on a single pivot, deciding that your actions align with reason and virtue rather than random impulse or social pressure. Once you understand that, each daily choice either supports your guiding principles or strays from them. You do not need to wrestle your emotions into submission at every step. You only need to recall what you aim to be and choose accordingly. Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius all stressed that self-discipline is not about suppressing joy, but about channeling your time and energy to fulfill your higher goals. If you see that an action moves you closer to your best self, you do it. If not, you refrain, recognizing how illusions and distractions can derail your growth. Epictetus taught that external events cannot compel us to act against our will, though we often surrender that will through habit or fear. He suggested that each time you face a moment of weakness, say the temptation to skip practice or break a promise, you can remember that your dignity hinges on acting by reason. Instead of letting fleeting comfort or indulgence decide, you stand firm, seeing this moment as a test of your alignment with virtue. This does not require heroic feats. It is a matter of noticing your impulses, measuring them against your chosen path, and deciding if they match. When they do not, you let them pass. That might sound like a mental chore, but with repetition, it becomes second nature, an unlabored reflex. The Stoic secret is that you do not wage internal wars. You calmly verify if an impulse accords with your reasoned priorities. If not, you move on, unburdened by guilt or drama. This consistent practice of refusing unhelpful urges shapes your character and yields the calm confidence we associate with self-discipline. Seneca highlighted that many people complicate self-discipline by pursuing contradictory desires. They want to live healthily, yet they also want constant indulgence. They want to manage their time well, yet they also seek every distraction. The mind then becomes a battleground of cravings. Seneca believed the solution was clarity about your overarching purpose. If your goal is to cultivate a stable mind, you curb impulses that sabotage it. That might mean fewer late nights or less involvement in petty gossip. If your goal is to develop a skill, you set aside an hour each day for practice, ignoring the lure of immediate gratification. By letting that clarity guide you, you bypass the chaos of competing urges. Self-discipline then is not a matter of endless willpower, but of selecting the path that resonates with your deeper sense of self. The simpler you keep your aims, the fewer internal conflicts you face. This approach dissolves the idea that discipline is forced labor. It becomes a joyful commitment to what you truly value. Marcus Aurelius wrote about beginning each morning with the resolution to do what is right, even if lazy or negative voices inside him object. He framed discipline as a devotion to the tasks that define one's duty, fulfilling obligations, caring for the community, or fostering personal virtue. Marcus recognized that the mind might prefer comfort, but he believed that comfort at the expense of principle yields regret. Rising from bed promptly, attending to duties without procrastination, and balancing these tasks with reason gave him an ordered mind. While he did not claim it was effortless, he insisted it was straightforward. You detect the lazy impulse, remind yourself of your purpose, and act. Over time, the lazy impulse weakens, and the simpler, purposeful approach becomes your default. This daily repetition carves a disciplined life, no magic or self-punishment required. You simply reaffirm your commitment each morning, letting that overshadow temptation. The Stoics also saw that discipline is simpler if you do not overload yourself with endless goals. Epictetus advised focusing on one change at a time, or a few central habits that embody your values. If we try to fix everything overnight, we disperse our energy. By picking a single area, maybe controlling your temper or dedicating consistent time to a skill and applying steady effort, we make genuine progress. Then we can expand to the next area once that habit is stable. This incremental approach underscores that self-discipline thrives on gradual momentum. Each small success builds confidence, showing you that you are indeed capable of directing your own behavior. That sense of mastery encourages you to tackle further changes. The method is elegantly simple. Do not scatter your will across too many fronts. Choose the priority, remain consistent, then move forward. Freed from chasing multiple transformations at once, you ease the mental strain. Marcus Aurelius also pointed out that our discipline gains strength when we remember how fleeting life is. We do not know how many days we have, so to fritter them away in laziness or aimless diversions is a great loss. He used this perspective to nudge himself. If time is limited, best to spend it doing what aligns with virtue and reason, not drifting. This sense of mortality does not create panic, but clarity. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing?" we ask, "How do I make this day truly count?" That question cuts through the inertia that can delay our good intentions. It is simpler to be disciplined when you see each day as a precious slice of life, one you do not want to waste in passivity. This vantage might prod you to maintain an exercise routine or keep a promise, because you realize the cost of neglecting it, losing an irreplaceable chance to grow or help someone. Epictetus also taught that discipline is easier once you stop measuring yourself by external benchmarks. If you define success by how others praise you or how many trophies you collect, you remain at the mercy of outside events. If, however, you judge yourself by whether you have stayed true to your chosen code of action, you can remain consistent even if the world does not applaud. This internal measure helps you push on with your discipline, unaffected by fleeting results. If you try a new habit and nobody recognizes it, you do not quit. You find motivation within yourself, knowing that your effort is worthwhile, simply because it aligns with what you believe is right. This interior orientation spares you from the complications of chasing approval. You do not slump if recognition fails to appear, nor do you rest on your laurels if you do receive it. You keep forging ahead, guided by your inner compass, making discipline less about external success and more about personal integrity. Finally, the Stoics offered a simple check for daily progress. At night, you can reflect on how you acted, where you slipped, and what you did well. Seneca recommended a gentle but honest self-review, not to shame yourself, but to note areas needing improvement. In the morning, you reset your intention and try again. This cyclical process cements discipline as a living habit rather than a rigid rule. You grow from each error, refining your approach. The mistakes lessen over time because you are continually aware of them. The mind learns to avoid repeating patterns that conflict with your commitments. This daily method might sound basic, but it accumulates into a stable transformation. The Stoics believed that discipline is not a Herculean achievement, but a quietly built foundation of small, consistent decisions. Freed from illusions, anchored in rational purpose, your life becomes simpler because you no longer wrestle with yourself at every turn. You know what you aim to do, you act, you correct if you fall short, and you keep going. The ancient Stoics show that self-discipline is simple because it flows from one clear stance. Realize that your choices belong to you, not to whims or to the opinions of others. Each day, each moment, you can decide whether to honor your chosen path or stray. By focusing on incremental steps, grounding yourself in reason, and discarding illusions about outside validation, you make discipline a natural expression of your character. It stops being a chore and becomes a steady pursuit of what you genuinely want your life to reflect. That approach, repeated across time, quietly reshapes who you are. No complicated formulas or extreme renunciations are required. It is enough to pause, ask, "Does this action serve my goals and values?" and proceed accordingly. Over weeks and months, those small confirmations add up, and you find that discipline has become second nature, not the fierce battle you once imagined.